traders, I hope you had a good weekend and successful transactions await you in the coming week. Of course, correct analysis and capital management and risk management have a great effect on the final result. We will start the Forex analysis in the next week by looking at the last week. In the last week, many parameters related to economic news that were determined in the previous time frame were reviewed and changed. As a result, what we had on the economic calendar last week changed during the week. For this reason, I request you to visit the Porsage Forex Academy site during the week and do not miss the economic calendar changes. Because the numbers and parameters we have in the economic calendar are a very reliable and good guide for a trader. Last week we expected the most growth for EURUSD, which changed with revisions and changes made during the week of these forecasts. However, with a general look at the economic calendar last week, we can see that the US dollar had a lot of negative news and the euro had little positive news. But when we refer to the chart, we see that the speed of the downward trend of the dollar has slowed down. Overall, looking at the economic calendar last week, it is clear that USDJPY with minus 12 points, CADJPY with minus 11 points and USDCHF with minus 10 points had the most negative news and EURUSD had the most positive news with 15 points. We will analyze the DXY index to examine the trend of changes in the US dollar. As you can see, at the support level introduced last week, the fall of the US dollar has stopped and the speed of its decline has slowed down despite the negative news of last week. Here we have to wait to see what awaits us next week. Will this support level be broken or will the US dollar react to this support level and the decline in the value of the dollar in the past few months is just a correction and its upward trend will continue? Well, let's take a look at next week's economy to see what's in store for us tomorrow. As you can see, based on the forecasts, we have the most positive news for EURUSD, which with plus 13 points we expect a big increase. On Tuesday, we expect plus 10 points from the economic news for this currency pair, and on other days, except for Friday, the predicted economic news for EURUSD is positive. In addition to EURUSD, economic news forecasts give the EURUSD currency pair plus 13 points. In this case we expect an increase in the beginning of the week and a decrease in the end of the week, on Friday. Looking at the bottom of the economic news table of different currency pairs, we see that we do not have many negative news for currency pairs this week, and AUDUSD has the most negative news with minus 6 points. Looking at the total economic news of the past month, we can see that the euro has the most positive news with 5 points and the US dollar has the most negative news with minus 6 points in the last month. In addition, we can see that the Canadian dollar and the British pound had a total of negative economic news in the last month, and other currencies such as the Japanese yen, the New Zealand dollar, the Australian dollar, and the Swiss franc had positive news. According to the past and future economic news and the summary done so far, we take a look at some currency pairs and talk about them. First, we will analyze the EURUSD. As you can see, in the first days of the week, we expect positive news and finally, on Friday, we expect negative economic news. We don't have a high impact event for this currency pair in the next week, but we have a lot of medium impact events on Tuesday, based on which we expect this currency pair to have an upward trend in the next week. As a result, in the 4-hour time frame, after each correction and price reduction, we open a buying position by observing the appropriate settings for buying. For EURUSD, if we look at the list of high-impact events, we can see that economic news is negative for this currency pair, but looking at other economic news, we see that we have many medium-impact events for this currency pair, which predict an upward trend. Looking at the chart, it can be seen that this uncertainty is visible in the market. I prefer not to trade EURUSD in the coming week and wait to see if the DXY support level is broken. But if I want to have a deal, I open a buying position only in the right situations when the conditions are available. The next currency pair we will look at is the AUDUSD. As you can see, we have the PMI news for the US dollar on Tuesday and the CPI news for the Australian dollar on Wednesday. Based on the forecasts, we expect the trend of this currency pair to be downward. However, we have to wait and see how these news will be realized, and if the predictions were correct, we can open a sell position after each correction. The next currency pair is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. On Tuesday we have the news of the PMI for the US dollar and the news of the CPI for the New Zealand dollar, both of which are expected to create a downward trend for this currency pair. As a result, if this news comes true, we can open a sell position after any short-term upward trend and correction at the right time. In the coming week, the gold chart against the US dollar will be affected by the economic news of the dollar. And as mentioned, there is a strong support level for the DXY index that we need to see based on the economic news this week and maybe next week. Will this resistance level be broken? As a result, I prefer not to trade on gold in the coming week, and if I want to trade, I will open a trade with very low volume and with very strict risk management. At the end, we come to cryptocurrencies and examine the Bitcoin chart as an example. As you can see, we have seen a good price increase for cryptocurrencies in the past weeks, which has led most analysts to conclude that this year will be a good year for cryptocurrencies. It is still too early to conclude whether this price increase of several weeks is the beginning of a positive trend to see Bitcoin at the price of $100,000, or whether it is just a short-term correction and the downward trend in the price of cryptocurrencies will continue. But in the short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, we can see that in recent hours, the price of Bitcoin has increased while the RSI chart is going down, and we can see a divergence in the ceiling. As a result, we can open a selling position for a short period of time by observing suitable conditions. Thank you for your attention. I hope you have a profitable week ahead. By visiting the Porsage Forex Academy website, you can find out about the latest news and economic events, and also receive suitable buying and selling signals on different currency pairs.